My name is Frank Teneri. I have the pleasure and the honor to introduce a panel of local government officials governing as conservatives in New York State. Now, I'm going to be introducing Richard David, Mayor of Binghamton, Matt Slater, Supervisor of Yorktown, and Chad Lubinacci, Supervisor of the town of Huntington. I haven't seen Alicia Terry. Alicia, you here? I understood that Alicia was tied up. So that's the good news. The bad news is the panelists each gave me a 3-page resume to read for their introduction. So let's get started. First of all, Richard David, Mayor of Binghamton. Right, Richard? Thanks for coming. Richard graduated from Allendale Columbia School in 1994. He then attended St. John Fisher College, where he studied communications and political science. While at St. John Fisher College, David worked as a production intern at a local television station. In 1998, David moved to Binghamton to start his career in journalism as a general assignment reporter for WBNG TV. While covering local politics, Richard met Mayor Richard Bucci and became interested in public service. Mayor Bucci appointed David as the City Hall's Director of Community Relations, a position in the mayor's office, and he handled public information, media relations, and constituent communications. In 2002, David received his Master of Public Administration from Binghamton University. In 2004, he was appointed as Deputy Mayor, a position that provided professional support and advised the mayor in all matters. In 2008, Richard and his development firm, Confluence Enterprises, completed work restoring a historic downtown Binghamton building into a loft apartment where he now resides, investing over $250,000 in estate holdings in the revitalization effort.
Please keep it down.
Next, I want to introduce Matt Slater, Supervisor of the town of Yorktown. Matt Slater graduated Yorktown High School in 2004. He was recognized as a member of the Westchester Wonderkinds class of 2015 and previously worked as the Chief of Staff for New York State Senator Terrence Murphy. Prior to his time in the state Senate, he spent time as the executive director of the New Hampshire Republican Party. Following the 2012 election, and formally served as Mid-Hudson Regional Director for the New York State Assembly Minority Conference. Matt has previously served as a top aide to Westchester County Board of Elections Commissioners Douglas Coletti, a campaign manager with the New York Senate Republican Campaign Committee. He also served as Chief of Staff for State Assemblyman David Katz and a regional coordinator for the New York Republican Assembly Campaign Committee. Matt also received his undergraduate degree in political science from St. Anselm College, where he's a volunteer for Rudy Giuliani's 2008 presidential bid. He also holds a master's degree in public administration from Marist College. Matt and his wife Kelly reside in Jefferson Valley and have 2 children. And finally, I'd like to introduce Chad Lubinacci. Chad is the supervisor of the town of Huntington. Huntington on Long Island supervises about 215,000 people. He graduated in 1997 from Walt Whitman High School, and he was a lifelong resident of South Huntington. Chad is a lawyer. He's a member of the South Huntington School Board. He teaches full-time at Farmingdale State College. He's taught at Hofstra University, Suffolk Community College, and St. Joseph's College. He also gave my son an A in his political science class. He also has a bachelor's degree in political science and a law degree from Hofstra University and an MBA from the Frank Czar School of Business at Hofstra. He's a former assemblyman from Huntington. At this time, I introduce Chad Luna.
Good afternoon, everyone. And it's certainly great to be here. Thank you to my chairman and also our state chairman for the invitation this evening. It's certainly an honor and privilege to speak to you a little bit about how we govern with conservative values. Just to give you a little history on the town of Huntington, we're an old town. We're a town that's older than the United States. We go back to 1653 when the town was founded. We're a robust town of 215,000 people. And I always say if you took America, you shrunk it into a microcosm of 215,000 people, you get the town of Huntington. We're a very diverse town. And back in 2017, the conservative Republican team was able to recapture the town for the first time in 24 years. So it was the first time that we had a power shift. And one of the very few towns that actually shifted in 2017 from a democratic to a conservative valued governance system. So we were very proud to take over and have done a lot of great things since that time. And one of the great things that we're very proud of is to maintain a AAA bond rating in terms of from the rating agency. So something that we're always looking at from budget cycle to budget cycle is where can we trim and lower costs while still providing excellent services across the spectrum, especially to our youth and to our seniors. Just to give you a few highlights of what's been going on, we have great downtown areas and great venues. So we always want to try to balance growth with also allowing new businesses to come about. Downtown Huntington is probably one of the greatest downtowns on Long Island or in the tri-state area. We have people that come far and wide to the bars and to the restaurants, and we're beginning a new hotel coming next year with 80 rooms, and we have one of the best concert venues that's been rated worldwide. It's 5th in the country. So that's called the Paramount. So we're always looking at ways to capture people and make sure people come in and visit our beautiful parks and our cultural areas and our museums, and it's certainly great. Once we go more south of the town, we have the 110 corridor, which is like an economic center for not just Huntington, but all of Long Island in terms of the service industry, attorneys, financial services, and something that we are very proud of. And that is an area that we share along with the town of Babylon. So we're always trying to bring new businesses to that area. One of the areas that we've seen a lot of growth and improvement that we've been promising the residents of the town in Huntington for over 60 years is that when revitalization efforts in the 1960s with the war on poverty and urban renewal, well, there was an area near our train station that was torn down, and for decades there was promises to rebuild the area into a walkable area with a mix of retail and apartments. And over the past 7 years, we've seen steps in that area where we're returning apartments and mixed-use development to the area that's close to the train station that provides more areas for people to live, but also to shop and enjoy the area in a downtown type of balance. So a lot of growth is going into that area, and just trying to make sure that we continue to be transparent and open for business to the public. One of the things that we did is we increased the number of town board meetings for the residents to come and give their input and make sure that we're accessible. For many years, there was just town board meetings in the afternoon. And it wasn't good for all residents to come down and be able to voice their opinions or see the democratic process in stake. So we're able to increase the number of meetings, and also that included, and of course that included our evening meetings too, which was very, very popular for the people, and also being able to stream them and telecast and real time is very important in terms of live streaming of our meetings, so people can participate and look at those meetings, whether they're at work or at home, in the comfort on our TV channels or also on our website. So those have been very, very popular things that we've done. Other things that we've been doing in the town is the ability to cut red tape, and we've went to same-day permitting for many of the projects for the town, whether it's swimming pool and demolitions, and it's become popular for the people because that was one of the backlogs that we had, people waiting days upon weeks, hours on lines, and just becoming a little bit more customer-centric and making sure that we're there for the residents, and we realize how, of course, valuable their time is. So as we go along in the next half hour, so I'm sure there'll be other things that we'll speak about, but I just want to give you a little bit of taste. Ethics reform has been huge on our topics too, where we've increased the power of our ethics board in terms of it being more independent of the town board and being able to elect its own chair And we've also increased the transparency with financial disclosure requirements for all town officials to make sure that they don't have conflicts of interest. So I'm going to pass it over to the Mayor of Binghamton next, and we'll look forward to questions.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to stand up, if you don't mind, so I can take a look at everyone in the room. Good evening. My name is Rich David, and I'm the mayor of the city of Binghamton. Binghamton is located in the southern tier of New York, and its population is just under 50,000 residents, about an hour south of Syracuse. And so I want to take this opportunity to thank the party for the invitation and the chairman for this wonderful invitation and opportunity to talk to all of you. So the topic today really is, how do conservative values play a role or impact the day-to-day operations of local government? And to effectively hit on that point, I want to tell you a little bit about what the landscape was like in the city of Binghamton the day before my first day in office, when things like cutting taxes were not important, things like investing in infrastructure were not important, and the major issues were protesting against the war, turning our downtowns into places for the Occupy Wall Street movement, and a whole host of state and national issues. That was the priority. So when I took office, it was very important for me to focus on things like public safety. What are we doing to make our city more safer? Focus on economic development. What do we do to create an environment that's more attractive for our community, for residents to live, work, and raise a family? How do we make our community more attractive for investors and developers and entrepreneurs? What are we doing to invest in our infrastructure? No matter where you live, roads are important, but it's not just roads and sidewalk and curbs, it's water and sewer lines, it's parking facilities, water and wastewater facilities. What are we doing to improve our overall infrastructure? What are we doing to improve the quality of life in our neighborhoods, in our parks? Whether it's blight, whether it's crime, whether it's code enforcement. And of course, most importantly, what are we doing about taxes? It's bad enough that New York State is one of the highest taxed states in the nation, but in our community, residential taxes had increased by 52% in an 8-year period by the prior administration. So think about that where you live. If over an 8-year period, your residential taxes increased by 52%, what would that mean to you? Would you be able to afford that? What would that do for economic development opportunities? So when I deal with developers now that say, why should I do business in Binghamton when I can go into one of your towns and one of your suburbs and not have to deal with those sorts of challenges? So for the most part, what we try to do is focus on those 5 key areas of public safety, infrastructure, economic development, municipal finance, and parks and neighborhoods. And of course, outside of that, you have things like poverty, affordable housing, homelessness, etc. But I strongly believe that cities and municipalities can and should be run like a business. How do you increase your expenses? How do you reduce your revenues? And how do you pass those savings along to the taxpayers? I'm very pleased to be able to say, well, in Binghamton we have a 2-tier tax system, so it's residential and commercial. So for the last 5 years, we've lowered taxes for homeowners. In the last 6 years, we've lowered taxes for commercial taxpayers. And that's in the backdrop of continuing to have unfunded mandates passed down from Albany and elsewhere, and dealing with major challenges that are outside of our control, like increases to the New York State retirement system, which any municipal will tell you it's most likely the #1 expense outside of your control, and that's the cost to the New York State pension system for your municipal employees, which has skyrocketed since 2000 and has now recently just leveled off. It's health insurance costs that are massive and outside of our control, the 2 primary expenses. And of course, the 3rd primary expense, which is within our control, is the cost of union negotiated contracts. Right? And so one of the things we try to do, you want to be able to pass savings along to taxpayers. You don't want to cut all of your services because for the most part, at least in Binghamton, your primary services are public safety. There are over 400 employees in the city of Binghamton, and over half of them are either a police officer or a firefighter. In our general fund budget, which is the budget that comprises property tax dollars, about 66 to 70% of that goes to pay public safety. So nobody wants to have reduced public safety or have less public safety. So what that means is we have to come up with creative cost-saving solutions to save money. And there's a laundry list of things, but I really just want to tell you one thing to kind of paint the picture. One of the things that we were able to do in Binghamton is change all of our streetlights, about 6,700 streetlights, 6,700 streetlights, to LED technology. It was an investment in our infrastructure. It was an investment in public safety because, as we found out, 1 in 10 lights were out. You don't know that because they're not all located next to each other, but across the city, that's what the average was. And it was financially viable and good for the environment. So that reduced our utility bill, the city's utility bill, the city's streetlight bill, by about 70% on an annual basis. $400,000 worth of savings we're able to pass along to the taxpayer. So I say that just to give you an idea of some of the creative solutions that we come up with in the backdrop of these rising expenses. But it's the conservative values and the conservative principles of approaching government with that mindset and having the business vantage point. If anybody is a business owner in the room, if every time your expenses went up, all you did was increase your prices, you'd go out of business, right? It doesn't work like that in government. Although we're seeing year after year after year, at least at the state level, when the costs get passed along to municipalities, municipalities are beginning to go bankrupt. They're having to make cuts in police and a reduction in services. And so that's the backdrop of what's going on. And we need to help our businesses, and we need to help our governments, not pass more unfunded mandates and make it worse. And the last thing I just want to touch on is the war on police across the nation. The war on police, the war on public safety, and what it's like right now. And I thought some of those commercials and ads that some of the previous speakers were showing are really point on, because the climate is so bad, and there's this mindset that police are the enemy, right? And so how do, when public safety is one of the top services that your community provides, how do you deal with that sort of back and forth? And it's important that we support our police, and that we add police, and that we give them the equipment they need, the training, body cameras, new equipment, resources to do their job. Because at the end of the day, as much as we all talk about taxes and jobs and infrastructure and demolitions and all the things that mayors and supervisors and council members do, if you don't have a safe, viable community, the rest does not matter. So I look forward to this discussion back and forth. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Matt Slater, supervisor for the town of Yorktown. For those who don't know, that's located in northern Westchester. We're a town of about 36,000 people, it's a very suburban town. And of course, living in Westchester, there's a lot of labels associated with that. And I ran for office, frankly, because I thought that our town could be doing things much differently and more efficiently, more effectively, and actually live up to those labels that we get bestowed upon us. I want to thank Chairman Kassar for the opportunity for speaking today. I know that we have a great delegation here from Westchester County, of course, Chairman Fox. I see Charlie Duffy. Of course, we also have Larry Chuli and his son Lawrence, and my friend Alex Vidal. But in regards to governing with conservative values, ultimately I think it comes down to principles. And having the principles not for both your long-term and short-term goals. For me, those principles come down to affordability, efficiency, and accountability. I think we can achieve accountability through access to information and actually allowing them to make arguments for us. I think one of the ways that we've seen that happen here in New York State is with the bail reform. And for those who haven't seen the latest poll numbers, that issue itself has now flipped on itself because we've given so much information to the public about what it means to our public safety and day-to-day life. In Yorktown, my first 26 days on the job, within my first 3, we had a string of vandalism. It stretched the entire length of our town. It hit our Episcopal church. It hit our First Presbyterian church, our library, our menorah donated by the Bible of Yorktown, our Yorktown stage, as well as the Old Stone Church at St. Pat's. Really about a 5-hour window of just destruction across our town, hitting religious institutions and town property. We acted on that, obviously, immediately, working with our phenomenal police department. I agree with you, it's a lot about public safety, and supporting our police department is, of course, one of our greatest priorities. But it also came down to communication. And one of the things that we heard earlier from John Braybender is the importance of communicating on a multi-channel platform. And so one of the things that we've done is increase our communication capabilities with social media, Twitter, Instagram now. We're up obviously on Facebook, and now we're including our own YouTube channel, because not only can people see what our government's doing and how we're responding to things on demand, whether it's live or watching it on our Facebook page or on our government access channel or website, but now you can watch it on demand via YouTube. We did have Cardinal Dolan come to our town in response to the vandalism. We're not letting it define our community. Again, 2 menorahs were toppled, Catholic Church, Episcopal Church, First Presbyterian Church, and town facilities. And as Cardinal Dolan had stated, it's very contrary to our community. And our community, because I think of the way we communicated with them and provided them with the information as to what happened and what our response was, is rallied around each other. And we're not letting it define us. But as I said, I think it comes down to communication through innovation. And we heard John talk about it, other things that we're trying to accomplish in our town. In just my first 3 weeks in the job, we're going to be upgrading our website, bringing on online portals to make it easier for businesses and residents to navigate government. And I think that's one of the things that we struggle with as a whole, is a government that's just become too bureaucratic and too hard for people to navigate through. So we're trying to streamline that process, and like my colleagues up here, cut through that red tape. But the more information that we can give, again, it makes it easier for the public to make those arguments for us. And at the end of the day, it boils down to affordability. And for Westchester, one of the labels we do wear is we are the highest tax county in the country. And if you look at the tax structure in Yorktown, 80% of our taxes come from our homeowners. Proportionally, Yorktown homeowners pay the highest taxes in the highest tax county in the country. That's because of the small or little to no business tax base that we currently have. So if we can make ourselves more efficient, it ultimately makes us more friendlier to taxpayers. And if we can improve how we operate, it's going to attract more businesses, and we're going to shift that tax burden away from our homeowners. So, just like Chad in 2017 down in Huntington, and this past election, 2019, Yorktown emerged as one of the only victories for the Republicans and the Conservatives in Westchester County. We had success in Mount Pleasant, we had success in Somers, and of course in Yorktown we flipped our majority and Reed took the supervisor's position. But again, just very excited to be here. I want to thank the Conservative Party for their continued support, and looking forward to a great conversation.
Thank you. Are there any questions for any of the officials? Go ahead.
Do you have any plans to take public services and privatize them, or are you precluded from doing that because of the municipal union?
Is that for all of them?
For all of them, sure.
Okay.
Sure, that's a great question.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. The question had to do with privatization. Do any of us have plans to privatize any services, or are we prohibited due to unions? And so I think the answer to that question is, at least for me just speaking in the city of Binghamton, we are not precluded based on unions. We would look at the unions as a partner in the process. We would need our city council to approve. In my case, I'm joined by one of my council members in the back, who I know she's attentively listening to what I'm saying here. But in Binghamton, we are currently looking at privatizing or outsourcing the management for our sewage treatment facility. We have a facility that serves the city of Binghamton, 10 other municipalities, and Binghamton University. And right now we're just looking at outsourcing the management of it because it's had a decades-long flawed management. And we're just on the heels of completing a $250 million rehabilitation project to correct about 2 to 3 decades worth of deficiencies and mismanagement at the plant. We recently also completed a study to look at consolidating some of our fire stations And so my attitude is, in the absence of change, you're left with the status quo. And that if you're going to go down that road, you should do it not based on your gut feeling, but the facts and data and analysis, so you can make an informed decision. And sometimes looking at something might validate the way things are right now. And sometimes looking at something might, you might come to the conclusion that, hey, we can do things better. My opinion is the only time you should move forward is if you can either save money or maintain and improve the level of services that are being offered. So it doesn't make sense if it's going to cost more money, and it doesn't make sense if you're going to save money but your level of service is significantly diminished. So we haven't actually done that, but we've begun the process to review several areas.
And I think the mayor put it perfectly in terms of, it's a cooperation with the unions to see where you sometimes go to outside sources to see where the talent is better, where the services could be better. And I can give you an example with our garbage pickup at the town of Huntington. We have garbage pickup 2 days a week and the recycling 1 day a week. So there's at least 3 pickups per household in the town of Huntington. Now, 30% of it is done by town employees, 70% of it's outsourced based on carters. So you look at that balance. And depending on the areas that you're going to, what's the density of the areas, how much the outside carter is going to charge. And sometimes it's easier, even though you have to pay for benefits, and of course you have to pay for retirement, sometimes the money savings is not with the outside carters, but in-house. Because when you look at all the things in terms of the contract length and how much they can charge, and there's a lot of factors, especially with the crash over in China with the recyclable material, that has put up a large burden on us over the past year. We've seen expenses go up quite a bit because of the cost of getting rid of the ash and having to get rid of the waste materials on Long Island. It's had a huge impact. So what we look at is basically if there's actually going to be a cost savings, and is it better for us to have those employees in-house and be able to control those employees and discipline the employees and make sure that they're providing the services and the efficiencies that the consumers or the residents need. So I think that's very important. When we have larger scale projects, and sometimes we can't house the talent inside, we have to go to outside consulting or outside agencies for the support. Like, for example, we could be building a 300 space parking garage in the town of Huntington, and we can't manage that project in-house. So we'll go outside to a construction architect firm that will actually provide a project manager for the length of that project from start to finish, the bonding, the support, how much we should charge per space will be used with outside talent. So I think it's always continuous review to see where the best economies of scale are of having employees inside, and then weighing the options, but making sure you always have a good working relationship with the union. So.
Yeah, I completely agree. A lot of this has to come down to database decisions and just making sure that ultimately what you decide to do is beneficial to the taxpayers and doesn't hurt services. We're wall-to-wall CSEA in the town of Yorktown, so just as Supervisor Rubinacci had said, it's just critical to have that relationship with your union. And similarly, from our standpoint, I can tell you from my first 26 days in office, the biggest complaint I get is about our garbage. Similar schedule to you with 2-in-1 with the garbage recycling, but we outsource our garbage to a private company, and so when we have complaints, there's only so much that we as a town government can do in comparison. If it was done in-house, there'd be other actions that we'd be able to take and have greater control over it. But ultimately, it comes down to dollars and cents. What makes the most sense for our taxpayers and maintains the level of service that people are desirable of.
Any other questions? All the way in the back. Frank?
Yes, thanks. Chad, I have a question.
I'll get you in a minute, Tom.
Okay, you got elected in 2017, and at that time, Huntington was controlled by the Democrats for over 20 years. So for 20 years, all their appointees were appointed. They spent a lot of money on the town, and financially, Huntington was in bad shape. We now took over in 2017. You have a 3-2 majority on the board. Could you just tell us how you've been able to deal with literally a 20-year Democratic legacy in every aspect of town government? Because you've been implementing and you're trying to implement fiscally conservative resolutions, but how are you dealing with that?
Right. And, when you come into an area where there's, one party control for 24 years, and you come in and first thing, some people are like, you gotta fire everybody. The problem is if you fire everybody at once, we have about 10% appointed positions. The problem is that then the government could cease. And, you need to still provide the services to the people. So what we did is we met with each department, see what the needs or wants were. We interviewed all the department heads and deputy department heads to see, where their past decisions were, how much they could be counted on to go forward. And we made a lot of personnel changes too. And we tweaked it because we didn't want plum positions that you didn't have to show up to work anymore. And you had to be there, clock in, clock out, make sure that you're working for the residents. And we did that department by department, which was very successful. And we have a very good talent base. And some of them were there from the last administration. They were non-political. They served the needs of the people. They had the knowledge and the intuition to know, and we're able to see cost savings during that time of where we could eliminate certain personnel and make sure we're able to shift personnel to the areas that it work. So instead of having positions that were more fluff positions in certain areas, we're able to collapse those positions and create more positions in the building department. Because in the building department, we know there's permits examiners and that there was several weeks of backlog, and when new businesses come in or you're constructing a new building, it wasn't right to those developers or to those people that wanted to make sure that they were following the laws and getting their buildings up and their businesses open. So I think that was very important. The other thing that was very popular in 2017 when we ran were term limits. So we never had term limits in the town. The prior supervisor that was there for 24 years. And what we did listen to the needs of the people. We implemented term limits in the first 6 months that I was in office. And in the town of Huntington, our elected officials townwide, whether it's town board, superintendent of highways, receiver of taxes, town clerk, town supervisor, served 4 years in one term. So what we did is we capped it at a total of 12 years or a total of 3 terms. That has been very popular with the residents. It just went into effect in this last cycle of 2019. So everyone elected 2019 onward could only serve for 3 terms. So I think that has been very, very popular among the consensus there. But we're always looking at getting a new talent and always looking at, for department by department, what's working and what's not working. And I think continuous overview and oversight of the departments is very important, especially as things shift. For example, we're the only town on Long Island that has a bus service system. We have county buses, but then the town of Huntington, out of the 13 towns, if you look at Nassau and Suffolk County, is the only town that has its own bus service. So I think it's very important, especially for disabled and elderly and the people that don't drive, to have that bus service. So we want to make sure we have the most efficiencies in terms of it running, not with nobody on the bus, to make sure that we try to optimize and make sure people use the bus, and that's a service that's needed there, and that's funded by state and federal money also. So I think those are the things that are very, very important. And at the same time, looking at new creative solutions to past practices. When I was in the state assembly, the town of Huntington passed a home rule message for us to create our own court system in town. And it passed the state assembly while I was running for supervisor, and also passed the state senate. Many times before, Governor Cuomo had vetoed it. So I'm sitting in my first month in office, and the town attorney comes in and goes, Mr. Supervisor, the governor signed the bill into law, which I was shocked. I thought he was going to, veto it for the 4th or 5th time. So we're one of only 2 other towns in the state of New York to have its own court system, its own town court. So this will actually help out the residents in terms of expediting matters in front of the court, taking things out of our district or Supreme Courts and bringing it right back. So it's a little bit easier to use. People go right to town hall where they feel comfortable dealing with the justices. And it's a model for many of the other towns to follow in the state of New York. And we hope to have our court system up and running by the early spring, so we're very proud of that too. Looking at bringing in new talent and make sure that they're committed to the values that we hold, which is, strict budgeting, making sure we keep up that AAA bond rating, and making sure that we deliver services to the residents that they want. And I think they want it in a friendly manner, and they want it in an expedited manner, rather than having to wait weeks upon weeks for that information.
Okay, we have one last question. Don?
Thank you. Mayor Rich from Binghamton. I was at the press conference you had in November, when we had a state executive committee meeting up there. First thing, can you give us an update of what's happened since then, and can you explain to us the importance of fracking in your city's budget?
Sure. Well, it's great to see you again. So thanks very much for the question about fracking, news conference in the city of Binghamton, any updates. So the update, I think, as you know, is not good for those of us who live in New York State with regards to fracking. And so the governor's most recent proposal is to shift from his executive order, which he issued to put a ban in place. He wants to make that law, which in essence would make it virtually impossible for that to ever be overturned in the future. A permanent fracking ban in New York State. Of course, the significance, I think, in the Binghamton area or the southern tier is that the Marcellus Shale is literally located in Broome County. We are the epicenter and have a great view, since we are a border community as well, on the border of Pennsylvania, have seen how just 10 minutes over the border, long-standing, aging and deteriorating communities have been revitalized virtually overnight. So, unfortunately, I wish the news was good, but it is not. New York State continues to move in a direction to make it virtually impossible for any future administration to come in and pick up fracking. As we've seen in the 30-plus states across the union, across the country, where fracking is in place, it has been a major economic boom, has transformed communities overnight with regards to its economic impact and job creation. And of course, as science and technology continues to evolve to make it safer and more productive and all those things that you hear. But if you listen to those with an agenda, they will say that it's bad for the environment, it's bad for the health of residents, but you just don't see that in the states that have it and have had it across the nation for a long period of time. You know, I'd be the first to say that I don't think that we should support anything that's unsafe to us from a health standpoint for people who would have those wells in their backyards. If the science proved that there was a health issue for the environment or the individuals and their families that were in close proximity, but you just don't see that. And it's not as though New York was a test case study where it was the first state in the nation to go down this road. You have it in so many other states across the nation and so many diverse climates. So that's the update, and we'll see what happens during this legislative session. But as everyone here knows, we're one-party rule in the state of New York.
Gentlemen, on behalf of Chairman Passar and the Conservative Party, we thank you for coming to speak.